Members of the Directors Guild, please welcome the nominees for Outstanding Feature Film Direction by the Directors Guild. That's me. You know, as you get settled, I was saying, is there anything common about these exceptional films besides being made by exceptional filmmakers? And then I realized there is one theme. You all deal with parenting in some way or other. It's true, you do. But let's delve into how you do it.
Parents and
Not
monsters.
how to be a parent.
Parents and monsters.
Well, monsters could be.
Same thing.
So here's my first question. What do you do when you're coming to the set? What do you do on the way to the set? Josh, what do you do on the way to the set?
On my way to the set.
On the way, you're not there yet. What do you do when you're on your way?
I'm probably doing something totally unrelated to the film. I have these strips, these little paper strips that I keep, and I have 2 of them, and they're little pink slips that I fold up. And they're like the kind of the fear of the set because they have, and I'm adding the things that I can to it before I go there. And anyone in New York, I don't know what the slang is here, but they're called the JFKs, and they're the shots that came from nowhere. And I didn't come up with that. I did not come up with that. I just remember hearing someone on Uncut Gems, one of Amy, the AD, she said, "Oh, we got some JFKs today," and that's where I'm. And I was like, what is he talking about? On my way there, I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, okay, how much can I jam into the day? Let me come up with a few JFKs.
By the way, just before we do this, let's introduce all of you.
I'm sorry,
this
I can't hear
anything
you're saying.
Who somebody may know did.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Scream. There's Ryan Coogler, who did Sinners. Chloe Zhao, who did Hamlet. Guillermo del Toro, who did Frankenstein. And Paul Thomas Anderson, who did one battle after another. Now, Ryan, what do you do on the way to the set?
That's loud. Hey everybody, thanks for coming. On the way to the set, I usually, like if I'm on a union movie, like it's been for the past few, I got a driver, a teamster. On this one, it was in New Orleans, and his name was Lance. He was awesome. And I roll with Zenzi, who was my producer, and also my wife. And we would generally listen to music really loud. It was mostly Chief Keef. He dropped the album while we were working. And that we were playing that like outrageously loud, like on the way to set. Yeah, but I'm usually like listening to music to either, if I'm too calm, I'm trying to pump myself up. If I'm too pumped, I'll try to calm myself down. I break out the Sade on those days. Yeah, but it's something like that.
Got it. Chloe, on the way to the set, what do you do?
Well, I make sure I read the astrology in the morning, just to see what's in the stars. I'm not kidding. And then sort of watch the weather outside the window. And I shot in London, and knowing that's what we're going to be dealing with. And then also read Jessie's dreams. And she writes down.
From the night before?
From the night before. In the morning, she writes down. Yeah, she writes down all her dreams, and then I write down my dreams, and I'm trying to look at what the dreams are trying to tell us.
Got it. Guillermo, on the way to the set, what do you do?
I arrived to editing 2 hours before call. So I edit the day before. Sometimes part of the crew is there. So I invite the crew to show up to the editing room. The next day, some of them come with croissants or conchas or whatever. And we edit in the morning together. I say this goes here, this goes there, and then I view the scene from the day before, and I carry it to the set. Most of the time, the editing room is either in a camper next to the set if it's location, or in the building next to the set if it's a studio. And I think it's great because what I realized over the years is that it's good to remember that you're not shooting a schedule, that you're not shooting storyboards, that it's going to be this. So it's good. I mean, I like it also because if you're more than 3 days on a set, you can go, oh, I need this, or I should do this again in a different way, something like that. Yeah.
Paul, on the way to the set, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to Ryan. I was generally with my wife, Adam Sumner, who is also my AD and producer, and so it depended. We were either really quiet or we were really chatty, depending on what the days were, and we were listening to music or silence, whatever it was. I mean, Cowboy Carter came out, so we were listening to that really fucking loud. And then, or music that might fit what sometimes I have the score already so we would listen to that. Or sometimes just, I don't know, it was different. And then we were such a road movie, we were always in different places, and then it made sense to just get a bigger car with everybody to pile in, so we'd have Colin, our camera operator, and it was Colin usually, and Bauman, and Jillian, we were all, it was a traveling circus. We traveled so much.
When you were all in that car, would you talk about the day's work, or would you?
We would usually wait for somebody like Colin to like fart in the car, and we'd be like, come on, man,
Colin, I'd be Colin's
Which department did it the most?
Camera operators, camera department. No, we would just joke, or it depends, the levels of tired or enthusiastic shift so much through a film. If you've really gone hard, everybody sort of needs a little quiet. As Steven Spielberg once said, the hardest part of directing a film is getting out of the car, which is kind of, in some ways, very accurate. In other ways, sometimes you're just you're like you're just waiting to get out of the gate,
And what's the first thing you do when you get out of that gate on set? What's the first thing you usually do?
Oh, I don't know. Get some more coffee, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
And I'm sure it depends on the scene, but still, in terms of the nature, where will you go as you enter the set?
To the set, to the camera, to the camera. To the camera, wherever the camera is. If it's still on the camera truck, it's like wondering why. Like, come on, let's get it. Like, just let's go.
Got it. Get on the move.
Gotta go.
Got it. Guillermo, first thing when you're on the set.
Well, I travel. I share my driver with my DP, so inevitably we talk about the shot. Or the first shot up, and the first thing is I block the first shot, and I never leave the set. I don't break for lunch. I stay there. I don't drink water, so I don't have to leave the set. So I'm completely dehydrated. So that's it. I mean, I think is great to land, and one of the things that people don't get is how much of what we do is poetry with hardware. Like people say, people, I think, sometimes imagine directing like a prompt to AI. All we're going to do is you have to use vectors. You have to say, track, camera undermounted, overmounted, this is the lens, and it's going to push or it's going to pull back, and we're going to jib up. I mean, there are hard vectors we use to achieve a moment that is musical and symphonic. So the best thing to do is say, this is the track, we're going to do the techno, we're going to hit.
And how is that first shot in your mind? Is that first shot come before you've entered the set?
It better. But I think the first shot, the first thing, if it's a very complicated scene, is you block with the actors. And that's the best thing. And the older I get, the more I want to listen. I prepare everything, but just in case nobody has a better idea. But I think we pray for something to fuck up, for something to go wrong. I mean, I think that you spend many years trying to achieve control, and then the other half of your career, you hope to lose it and listen to the movie.
Yeah.
Steven said something beautiful. Steven said if the credits were right, it would read a film by the film.
Yep.
And that's true. I mean, the movie speaks, and the older you get, the more you listen.
And all of your movies speak in a way. Just seeing your movies is enough, but having you here is also a privilege.
Oh, thank you.
Chloe, in terms of the first thing you do when you get on the set, where do you go and what do you do?
I usually first find my AD and just to see like what survived today. How's everyone doing? And then usually Jesse or Paul, they would send me a playlist of where they feel like they want to be. And then we would play that. Our sound department will rig. We always have speakers. So we'll start playing the moment everybody gets to set. To the first shot, usually it's about an hour and two in. We really take our time in the morning to just make sure not just the cast, but also the entire ecosystem, the crew is starting to vibrate to the same energy. Sort of like you always have an opening to any ceremonies and rituals that you do, which is what we ask our actors to perform and the crew. And so that music is actually on a loop as well.
And,
That's the first thing.
are you choosing it and changing it?
No, Jesse and Paul are choosing it. Our actors are choosing it.
Did they argue with each other who gets the turn?
What?
Did they argue who gets to play first?
No, usually Jessie. Yeah. Actually, mostly Jessie. Yeah. She's the one that speaks the language of that we try to discover for her character. So.
Ryan, first thing, once you're on set, where do you go? What do you do?
I find my AD on this movie. His name was Marvin Williams. He's great. I met him on the first Black Panther. He was a second unit AD. But yeah, I usually find him. We're usually trying to beat each other to set. It's like a silent competition. But most days he kicked my ass, and I'll just stand next to him and like Chloe was saying, kind of figure out what the vibe is. We were in Louisiana, so the weather would do different things. Some days it just totally like washed the set away overnight, and you get there, it's just like a big pile of mud. Or it's like, yo, how many alligators did we catch today? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But then, yeah, like it's figuring out blocking after that. But I love what Paul said too, like finding the camera. Like I learned like movie 3 to just go to where you think the camera should be, and just stand there, and it'll materialize. But no, it's really similar to what everybody's talking about.
Josh, first thing, once you're on set, and again, obviously it changes depending on what the set is and what the day is, but what's usually the first thing, where do you go?
As fast as I possibly can to the actual set. I want to ignore all the accoutrements and things like that. On my last movie, I walked past and saw one of my costume designer, Miyako, and I saw all these trucks and stuff in New York City, and it's a real blight on New York. An incredible thing to shoot in New York City, but it's a blight if you live in New York. Oh man. So I said, we're getting screwed. Look, they're shooting a movie over here. She's like, these are our trucks. And I hated it. And so my instinct is to like break the illusion, get right to the set immediately. I started in the art department early on. So I'm immediately there, I'm working. I had Jack Fisk, incredible Jack Fisk and Adam Willis. And I immediately get in, set decorate with them, and I wait for the camera. I also had Colin Anderson as an operator on the film. And I've shot movies, so like each department, I feel like I'm a part of them. So we all just kind of coagulate around the actual set, and I never leave it. And Jeremy Marks, my AD, he knows that's where he's gonna find me, and he kind of comes up, and he's got a great vibe, and he kind of lets you know, like, it's not war, even though we all know it is.
Let's talk about casting. And what I would like you to address is, when you meet an actor for the first time, how do you handle that situation? Paul, this is the first time, we're not talking about casting stars, and we're talking about someone you're meeting this actor. What happens? What happens in that audition?
Audition?
Yeah.
Well, I've worked with the same casting director for 25 years, so there's all variations. You know, somebody's coming in, or to maybe you've seen their tape, or maybe or they don't need to make a tape. You just want to meet them. I don't know. I mean, 50% is really just sitting and hanging out with the person, as much as them reading the lines. You know, and getting a sense of whether you're going to be excited to go to work with that person.
Will you, besides reading the lines, doing reading, will you talk about anything that you noticed helps you get to whether this is a person you want to be with? Is there any conversational?
I guess it's just an energy, a vibe. You know, you like that person. I mean, most of the times you kind of you're crossing your fingers that it's going to connect, and you kind of are aware of the person or something like that. Many situations on the film that we just made, we were working with a lot of non-professional actors that Cassandra had found in various cities that we were in. So a little bit of that process is settling them down, you know, making them, you know, if they're, you know, do a scene across from Leo. At first they have a kind of, oh, it's Leo, you know, and you like settle it down and just start talking to him and get into the scene. The more you kind of get into the deep end of the pool faster, the sort of healthier it is, you know.
In casting, there's some wonderful performances in all of your films and some unique people. But like I'm thinking, for example, a guy, I guess it's Agent Danvers, who apparently you tell us this character who was very powerful in the movie, but I don't think he started out as an actor.
No, he's not an actor. Jim Ratterman is an ex-ICE officer who I said, woo. who
perfect film to be in.
It is a perfect film to be in, but I should note who spent 30 years with Department of Homeland Security and different agencies, and in a 30-year career was hard-pressed to find 300 really bad guys. And he was looking for really, really bad guys. So 300 in a career of 30 years.
Got it.
In light of 3,000 a day. You know, was a very smart man, incredibly good at his job.
And how did you cast him?
I saw him, I got him through Cassandra and Matthew Heineman, the terrific documentary filmmaker who had made a few different documentaries. A lot of our military fellows are ex-Rangers who were in Afghanistan with Matthew Heineman at the fall of Afghanistan when the US pulled out. And he had connections to them, and he gave them to me and Cassandra. And you know, to work with military guys, I have to say, it's one of the great privileges of my life because they are so attentive, aware, helpful. They're kind, and they will not do it how they're supposed to do it, and which is what you hope for. You know, you might ask them to do something that maybe you've seen in the movies before, and they'll look at you and they'll respectfully decline if they want it to be honest, you know? And it's great because that's what you would hope from anybody, from any professional who does that job. They don't want a movie director coming in telling them how to do their job. You want them to tell you how they do it and then film it. So it's great. And
did he surprise you, Dennis?
That actor, he's an actor. I see. He's an actor now. It's kind of like getting R. Lee Emery, you know, who like he should have a career because he's obviously very good at interrogating. And what we did was we went to a high school dance up in Eureka, and we picked kids off the floor. I said, "Would you like to be interrogated?" And they said, "Sure." I said, "Well, the only thing I want to tell," I said, "Don't worry. It's a safe space. Have fun, but." The only plot point you need to know is that you just refuse to give this girl's a phone up, you know. And they said, "Got it." And then we sat them in the chair, and he scared the shit out of them, you know. But they held strong. They held strong. They didn't give it except one. Well, he was the best actor, and I said, "Okay, so now I need to ask you. So let's do a take two. You do have the phone, you know." And he was really kind of capable.
Those kids are wonderful. When you chose them, do you remember why you chose them?
I just saw them and they had such great energy, and I just chose them. What was the worst that could happen? You know, they were really game for it, and I said sure. And there was a little group of them. They were hanging together, and I just noticed them. And we were shooting the dance part in the beginning of the day and the interrogation stuff in the afternoon. So I just spotted them and said, "Come over." And they had great energy. They were very, really sweet to work with.
They were quite wonderful.
Yeah, it was fun. But it's one of those, you know, you kind of have to shake hands and and say respectfully, we're going to scare the shit out of each other, and let's go for it. And it's just a game. It's all good.
Well, they played the game really well and believable. Guillermo, I know you've said that when you're cast, looking at the eyes of the actor is what's important. What do you see?
Well, I think that 50% of film is looking at someone, and 50% is someone looking at something or someone. So I cast the eyes. It's not a glib answer. I really look into the eyes of the actor and see if the character is there or something similar. What I do is, the older I get, the more I write the part for the actors. So I start casting, and then there are months and months of me writing what I think is their voice or their attitude or something. And in the last one, because it's a very confessional movie, Frankenstein for me, I said to Oscar, Mia, and Jacob, I said, look, can we be very real? Can we be people? You know, can we, and with Oscar, I said, I'm gonna tell you everything I've done wrong in life. And you gotta tell me everything you've done wrong in life. So you're not a star, and I'm not the omniscient director that knows everything. You know, I want you to see me in trouble. I want you to see me fallible, because we cannot get this movie if we're not fallible. Him and I, we became like more than brothers, and I think it's really good. I think really good to be able to be a human being and not play a part, because the director is playing a part sometimes. When you're younger, you play the part. And I think the older you get, you just relax into doing it the way you are going to need to do it that day. You know, it's not, no, this is how I do it. No, how am I going to do it today? When I was blocking with, Mia, the first day, and I had hired her because I saw Pearl, and I thought, whatever she's cooking, I need it in the kitchen. You know, and I come in and I say, well, the camera's going to come here, and you're going to land here. I'm going to push in, and then you're going to move over there, and that's the mini master. And she says, what is a mini master? And I thought, what do you mean? Well, we do the master, and then I cover it. And she says, why don't we just do it and see what happens? And at that moment, I went, what am I going to say? And I said, learn something new, man. And I said, let's do it that way. And from then on, she became a little more precise, and I became a little more loose.
Love it.
And I think that the more you don't know, the older you get, the more blessed you are. So you got to get yourself back to not knowing.
Let me ask you about a casting piece, the young Victor.
Yeah.
How did you decide on this character?
It didn't matter to me that they looked similar. Mm-hmm. I just needed a kid that looked intelligent and was a little motherfucker. That didn't care.
And how did you find that?
Well, I was watching a series, Sweet Tooth, and I saw this kid, and I said, this kid has the intelligence and the eyes and the authority to stand in front of Charles Dance, which I can't. I would be behind the sofa. Charles, can you go there? So that was the thing.
Did you meet him?
Huh?
Did you meet him before you cast?
Very briefly. I didn't have him. He read, but I don't believe in that.
Because?
And I think you meet the actor the first day of shooting. You can scale the Everest, save his life, carry him down the Everest, and the first day he can be an asshole. You never know. It's the first day. You can socialize all you want, but it's the same for the director. You can meet me and I can make jokes, and the first day something changes. So I don't need to meet him. If he seems like the energy is right and he reads okay, great. I wanna then land him. And I never work with a child actor. I work with actors that are young. I don't think you can direct a child actor like a child. You direct him like an actor.
Well, here's the great transition to go to Chloe.
I knew it.
This got set up, obviously, Chloe, because you have this amazing Juke brothers who are spectacular in your movie. And I'm curious, in casting specifically, this is a child. I guess Noah's, 11, 12 years old. I'm not even sure how old he was when you worked with him.
Yeah.
What was the process of meeting this person and you're knowing that this person could do the amazing performance that he gives you?
Let's see how many times Steven Spielberg's name is mentioned on this panel. Yeah, Steven is one of the producers, and then I asked him, so do you have any advice on casting children because you're pretty good at it. He said, oh, thank you. So she said, have you seen the E.T. video on YouTube?
Yeah.
The casting video?
Yeah, the casting the kid E.T. So I haven't. And then I went to watch it. I thought, He's like, just maybe something like that. So it's for those of you who haven't seen it, is the goal of it. So we had Jacoby, who plays Hamlet, in the room with me, and with the permission of him and his parents, I asked him who's the most important person in your life, and he tells me it's his dad. And then I went on for the next 10 minutes telling him, there's somebody downstairs who's gonna take him away, and he has to try everything to convince me not to. And then they went pretty far in every tempo you can imagine. And what I'm looking for in that moment is not whether he's doing it right, but whether he's staying completely present 150% of the time to me. So I would be tripping him up left and right, and sometimes doing things thinking that maybe he would want to do the right thing for this audition, and then just to see if he will completely be present, even though that means say nothing. That means walking out of the room. And he was there the entire time. Yeah, and I think that's what Stephen was looking for in the E.T. audition.
There's no question in that video. You see that. Now, in the same process, were you then talking and engaging? Because that's an improv that the boy does in the E.T. Were you doing the same thing?
Yeah, I was the voice, so I'm improvising with him.
So it's you.
Yeah.
And what kind of things would you, if you remember, say to see what would happen? Do you remember some of them?
Sometimes, he's smart. Really, he was like he was like negotiating, a little bit manipulating, crying, laughing, threatening, getting angry. He was giving everything at me. And then I would sometimes suddenly, just in the middle of a sentence, stop talking. Or I would suddenly shout at him. Or I would start crying myself. And just to see what he's got. The thing with child actors is that if they've learned a habit, if they learn that in the morning I got to figure out everything, I must know everything because that's where I feel safe, this is not the right project for them. There's plenty of space for that. And because we know when we ask our actors to come to set, is to ask them to hold that really difficult tension between knowing and not knowing. And work that fine line. They cannot not know at all. That's entropy. That's not good either. They have to have an intention in a container and then completely let themselves go and surrender. And when a child actor can do that, it brings magic to the set. Yeah. And then it's contagious to everyone around them. So that's the most important quality I was looking for.
Got it. And I'm going to repeat it. It's presence and listening.
Yeah.
Presence and listening.
Absolutely.
Got it. Ryan, your star, Sammy, who in Miles is, I think, astounding. And I know you heard his voice initially. When you met him, what allowed you to get the confidence to be able to say, yeah, he's got the great voice and a great singer, but can he do this? What did you do with him?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get really nervous in auditions. Like I'm anxious. Because I don't like being around people when they are super anxious, I got an antenna for that, and I end up matching it, And I also feel like in auditions, I don't really know what to do, So I got a great casting director, Francine Mesler, who I kind of let her do the talking in auditions or in the first time I meet an actor. Cause she's done it so much more than I have. And she knows everything they're saying, everything to look for. So I ended up just kind of sitting there observing, and this kid had never acted in a movie before. He's a professional musician. And I'm listening to, I'm learning so much from everything you guys are saying. But he sent in a couple tapes. And the first one, he didn't even know how to light it. He was just in the basement, it was dark. He had this incredible voice. And then he kind of disappeared on us. We were looking for trying to find this actor. And And I would ask Francine, hey, what's up with that kid?
By the way, were you committed to the idea that you wanted someone who really could sing?
Yes.
As distinguished from
we needed it. It wasn't even about what I wanted. Like, you know, the movie required that this kid would be so gifted at music that his father was stressed out about it. His cousins who hadn't seen him in 7 years, who didn't have time for anybody or anything, would pick him up for the day and figure he could make a contribution to their life's dream. And not a thousands-year-old vampire would seek him out. Like, he had to be really good at music, you know.
Got it. So we know Miles is good at that, but you didn't know if Miles could act.
The acting part was the question, right? We knew we would need both, because you would also have to be in scenes with Michael B. Jordan, Delroy Lind, you know, so we needed both things, and we knew he had to be believably young, and it was unlikely that we would find this person in the time that we had. So you know, when you hear his voice, it was like, Jesus Christ, you know, and it's coming out of this young body. It makes you believe in the supernatural, you know what I mean? Like, cause that voice is coming from somewhere else. Like, that's not an 18-year-old voice, right? And yeah, like he had the first audition, we couldn't find him. We find out that he's like a professional touring musician, you know, and he was trying to finish high school at the same time. And that's why he wasn't emailing us back, you know? So then Francine sends me an Instagram post, and it's his mom holding the phone, and she's chasing him down while he's got a cap and gown on through a parking lot in Brooklyn somewhere. And she's like, this young man did 14 tours and this, that, and the third, and today he's gonna walk across the stage, graduating. You know, you can see the pride.
His mom.
You can hear the pride in his mom's voice, but you can see the pride on him. Oh. And I'm like, yo, this might be our kid. You know what I mean? And then he finally read, and he was great. So we brought him out. And I actually had an ace in the hole, because I had Francine there, I had Mike B there for a chemistry read, but I also had Ludwig Göransson, my composer and executive producer, there to just check his music skills. You know,
so was everybody in the room when you?
Everybody was in the room.
And he was okay.
He was great. Like, you know.
I'm saying because sometimes in casting sessions, there are too many people in the room.
The reality is we wanted him to do well, you know, and we told him that, you know what I mean? It was like Mike was there to help him with his acting. Mike was a child actor or a young actor, you know, his whole life, you know, so Mike was there for him. Ludwig was there for him, who been playing the guitar since he was a baby. And Francine's done, you know, many thousands of hours of auditions, you know what I mean? So I was just kind of there to say, hey, what's up, man? Give him a hug, you know. And when he was nervous for that first read we did, I remember Mike took him outside. Like, Mike took him, he was like, let me take him for you know, it took him for 30 minutes. And I don't know what they did in the hallway, you know, but he came back an actor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We need to find out. This is a question I want you to ask Mike and get back to us on this, would you?
That's magic.
That's the magic. Okay. That's amazing. That's amazing. By the way, casting also, I mean, because the variety of actors that you have in your movie are also so intensely believable. Interesting also about a young actor, the young girl who when Smoke shoots the outside, where did you find her?
In New Orleans. Yeah, in New Orleans. Her mom is an acting teacher. So yeah, she was just aces, and Zinzi was there in my local audition. Zinzi was always there too, and she wasn't nervous. Like, she a working actor. But she was I could feel a little bit of anxiety. And Zinzi somehow found out that she played volleyball. And Zinzi was a volleyball player for a good chunk of her life. So they started talking about that. And then the next take, she was gold, you know. But no, she's really impressive actor. And her mom teaches acting in New Orleans.
Got it. Josh, I think we'll now spend the next 4 hours talking to you about how you find all of these people who've never acted before, and then how do you get the performances from them, because they're just...
And every extra.
I mean, it's just...
Every face in the movie.
So,
thank you.
Let's talk about some of them, and you know, I'll pick one off of my...
Sorry, I can't hear you. What'd you say?
You know,
I didn't hear what you said.
I'm complimenting you.
No,
No, but I was
I
just
was
thinking,
told that my hearing is fine.
Got
I
it.
said, what does that mean? They go, it's fine.
I was. Let me adjust. Someone like Pico, who is this philosopher, TEDx character, how do you decide on people like this or Mizrahi? I mean, some of these people are obviously performers on their own, but they're not going to be in the movie, and you get these amazing performances. When you meet somebody who has never acted before, how do you dress them to get confidence for you to say, I know I can take this person and put them in a place where there are going to be 50 people and cameras and all the rest? What's your process?
What's my process? I think movies on a very basic level are documentaries. You're documenting the souls of the people. That stuff is instant. Everyone here talked about the instinct of meeting somebody. The audience has that. When I was a kid, people in movies were just people. They weren't actors, except for Shelley Duvall in The Shining. That was something different. I didn't know what was going on there. As a kid, I was like, that's a different person. And I was amazed. That was incredible. So, a big part of it is confidence on their behalf. Meeting somebody who's blind to themselves in a way, who has, iconic qualities that jump out. I love original people. People who are, kind of uninfluenced by others. They do the influencing, and I don't care if they're somebody who collects autographs or somebody who's been in 100 movies. Usually the movie stars are stars, and some of these people on the street that Jen finds are also stars. So I like stars a lot, almost more than I like actors. But I think being a movie star is more important than being a great actor, but also being a great actor can make you a movie star. I think Jen Vendetti, who I work with, she's she and I work, in tandem together a lot, and it's she's a documentarian first and a humanist as well, and she and I kind of comb real life. I stop people on the street, she stops people on the street. We look through, we think of actors we love, and we treat everybody exactly the same. And I think that some of the first timers see me talking to them the same way I'm talking to like a Gwyneth Paltrow. They're actually one of the actors in the movie who plays Abel Ferrara's buddy who comes out. His name is Mitchell Wenig. He's who I put in a movie before. He's an autograph collector. He sells them. Him and Johnny Ramone used to trade ephemera. A very interesting guy, totally unique, incredible point of view on the world. He's an autograph collector. So one day we're filming and a scene that he had nothing to do with. And I see near the trailer, Gwyneth's trailer, I see him standing outside with a folder. And I go up to him, I say, Mitchell, what are you doing here? He goes, what, is this not okay? And I was like, I said, what's in the folder? He goes, some pictures from Emma, you think she'll sign them? And I said, you're her co-star. You don't have to wait outside. This is creepy. What are you doing out here? And he's like, I'm so sorry. Can you get them signed? I said, absolutely. He goes, blue pen right here, right over here in the clean thing. And I understood it. And those photographs, I understood why he wanted it there, the objects. And he knew I understood that. And I'm just getting to know all these people. And it's really when you're working with people, again, it doesn't matter if they're first time or not. It's just getting to know them and getting to know them as people and trying to align. And then sometimes you rewrite the scene, the character for the person you cast. And I think, Ryan talked about that video on social media. That's actually a very interesting contemporary part of casting, as you see on social media these little kind of candid moments and how people are with their friends. And I think Zoom is kind of a very dangerous thing because it's very misleading. Actors who we want to meet on Zoom, it's just not the same. You're not getting their sense of self, their feeling, and you're literally looking at it through a corporate creation. This is literally called Zoom. I met with an actor in their agents at their agency, and they're just like in some like breakout room, and like you can just see the frosted glass and people walking by and stuff. And they feel uncomfortable there. So therefore and you do your best over Zoom to make someone feel comfortable. And there's a limit there. There's a limitation. No one's talked to me about Pico. No one ever talks to me about Pico Iyer, who plays
Pico's amazing.
Yeah, no one talks to me about him.
Well, we're talking.
Maiko Endo, one of the producers of the movie, she's Japanese, a friend of mine, interesting filmmaker as well. She and I have known each other a long time. She made a very interesting movie, Japanese movie called Koichi-san. And she cast, it's a documentary essentially, her film, and she knows what I'm interested in. And she sent me she found Koto, who plays Endo, Koto Kawaguchi. She went to all the table tennis parlors in Tokyo. And then she sent me a TED Talk that this man, Pico Iyer, did about 1952 table tennis in Japan and the fascinating parts of that and how they used it to come out of isolation and blah, blah, blah. But it was his demeanor. He was so calm and he was so in control, and his insights on table tennis themselves, there was just these antithetical to the character that was written, who was kind of an asshole and someone who was kind of the gatekeeper. And originally I wanted Gordon Ramsay to play that part. And then when I saw him, it changed everything. I was like, oh, it could be so much more interesting and more frustrating if this guy had this demeanor, he can't get angry. So when I met him for the first time, and he wrote this very interesting book called Video Nights in Kathmandu, which is like examining Rambo moving through the Asias as a movie, as a phenomenon. Interesting guy, just a very interesting guy. And he just, I don't know, I said to him, I really want you to play this character. He's angry. He goes, Josh, I've never been angry in my life. And I said, that's why I want to see it. But his point of view on table tennis, the fact that he knew about this story in particular, was very attractive to me. And I just felt like it was, but that's an example of a video TED, very corporate thing, TED Talks, and his persona jumped off the computer screen.
Two more characters, Dion and that family. Can you tell how?
Dion and his family?
Yeah, and he casting that character, and also the family.
So Dion, who plays Luke Manley, who's the friend of Marty, who Marty kind of inspires. I am a big Knicks fan, and they won like a playoff game. Or I think they lost a playoff game to trade to the Atlanta Hawks, and this video went viral. It's like all this mashup of all these people going nuts. This one kid gets on there and he screams, "Trae Young looks like my dad's dick." And then everyone, he looks around and realizes like, maybe that's weird. And he looks around and he goes, well, I don't know what my dad's dick looks like, but he still looks like shit anyway. And I said to Ronnie, who I wrote the script with, I showed him the next day, I said, imagine this guy's being this guy's father, right? He saw this video the next day. And he doesn't like sports, and he hates that his son is into sports, and his son doesn't have a job. And we created this whole persona. I said, now imagine being the son of that father and that feeling. And that was kind of the character in a way. And then that was when I decided to write.
Did you meet him before?
No, and then I found his handle on Twitter was called Fatrick Ewing. And I thought it was incredible that he had that sense of humor about himself, and he was scared. And then I brought him in with Jen, and we did a really intense. I give all the first timers like a nice character biography and then a scenario, and let's see how they are with improvisation. See the ideas they come up with. You go through that 3 times, and then you start introducing words and see how they are with trying to manage a script.
So you start with an improv, and you said you did this a
start
number
with
of
a character, then improv, and then the direction for the improv was you have these car keys, and your friends are trying to get them from you, and they're just and you live in a nice house, and they're making fun of you for that. And he just got so uncomfortable, got so red in the face, started doing this thing with his chin, and it was so natural to him. Like he was just in the moment, so present. And then we started introducing lines, and he was great with it. And he was very special. And when you have a special person, they change the set. When they're on set, they become the stars. And he saw me talking to him so much that he was like, well, why aren't you talking to Timmy or Odessa right now? And I was like, well, we're talking right now. And he talks about that scene where the makeup is revealed. He's like, it was incredible. He goes, I have like a front row seat to these great actors. And then I thought from his point of view the first time, I was like, this is a completely made up scenario. This doesn't exist. Here you have Timmy like really in salesmanship mode, and they're working him really hard. And he's realizing like, wow, these actors are working me right now. He said it was a pretty awesome moment. And his dad's played by John Katsitamidis, who I saw a speech when he ran for mayor in 2013 in New York, and I was like, that's what I want my mayors to look like. I want them to have a cigar. I want them to maybe be corrupt, you know.
Was it easy to
Now
get him?
I love our mayor, but like,
Was it
you
easy
know,
to get him to say
he's a
yes?
star too. Zoran's a star as well.
Was it easy to get him to say yes to play the part?
You know, when someone's a billionaire, they don't really have much. You know, you're hoping that they're interested in the things money can't buy, which is like an experience like this, and he's just himself, and his face is unbelievable. His face is. You want someone to be the part and do a lot of your job before they even open their mouth. Like the person who's interrogating them. That when he shows up, you're scared.
Yeah.
You're just scared. Like, this guy is the essence of power and authority, and he's going to get the information out of me somehow.
Nicely done.
As a viewer. And
Nicely done.
that stuff happens. It's as audience members, we don't even realize it's happening immediately. Kevin O'Leary, you see him, you're like, that guy's an asshole.
You got it.
You know, and you don't like him.
That's
you don't
right.
like him.
It works. All right, let's talk about another issue.
Sorry.
Which is, no, this is why we're here. This is why we're here. This isn't always the answers that you're going to get when you're being interviewed, which you all have done for your films endlessly. So hopefully you get new stuff, which is what we're hearing.
Yes.
Rehearsal. Do you do it? How do you do it? When do you do it?
Well, I don't know. Kind of, sort of. It depends on what. Well, like, I guess there's two types of rehearsals, right? There's a rehearsal before you even go to set. Is that the one you mean? You know, that one. If an actor wants to do it, I'd love to do whatever they want to do, and maybe rehearsal. You think of rehearsal as like, okay, we're going to get together, and it's going to be a big empty space, and we're going to really explore everything of this, and we're going to figure out what it is, like you would in a play. I don't do that, and haven't worked with actors that want to do that. Maybe a version of rehearsal is getting together and going through the script, but going through fast and just making sure there's no real red flags, or where there's like a light red flag, there's an awareness of it, you know, and an excitement that's something to figure out when we get out there. It's something we'll never figure out in the room right now, and so let's not bother, but there's enough to get started with. There's enough to go to work with. I think it's just that, like, Leo loves to kind of talk, and that's part of his process. And what it is the process of taking a thing apart and putting it back together again. And the benefit is that when he turns up on day one, he's ready to go, which is exciting. So in terms of rehearsing, on the day, yeah, of course, you have to kind of map out what the blocking is and where everybody's going to go. But you kind of, I don't know, I get the feeling of wanting to not, you want to kind of start shooting before you really have it totally figured out. You know, it's like when it's 50% figured out, wait, let's just start, let's just start. There's enough, we're lit, or we're, rather than, you just want the cameras to be rolling when shit falls down or shit happens, right? So it's the faster you can get going to, as I think all of us have said, capture accidents or capture chaos, the better chances you have of success.
So a scene like, for example, when her friends come to the door and there's this confrontation with Leo and the friends. Was there, or would you rehearse with, because some of these are actors that are very experienced, some are not. Would you do a rehearsal of that before you ran in?
It was the very first thing that we shot in the movie. So there was a getting to know you kind of comfortable, the day before, go and get a basic blocking. Okay, you're hungover, you're gonna come to the kitchen, you're gonna go sit down. It's such a small house that there's not a lot of opportunities or places to move. The room for exploration is like that big, But within that, there's infinite possibilities in terms of what is going to happen and be said amongst each other and ways to say it. So, and because it was the first day, it was very, very good, but it also felt like there was room to really get it even better. So the benefit of working with a great AD, and he knew that was going to happen, and there was room to go back and do it again. And so we kind of took a second bite at it, and everybody was just a bit looser, and there was more.
In a way, that was the rehearsal.
In a way, that was the rehearsal, and we were shooting the rehearsal, kind of a test. But by the time we came back to do it again, we were, Leo was more confident, Chase was more confident. The poor kid who was not an actor was, a little bit more. He never knew what to expect because Leo would just fuck around with him every single time he opened the door. So there was always something new coming there.
What did you tell him, that young man, in order to be able to respond to what he didn't know was going to happen?
I don't remember. I said, hold on tight, good luck.
That's a direction. That's
Yeah.
serious. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It worked well. Hold on tight is a good one. Guillermo, rehearsal beforehand and rehearsal when you get you start shooting.
I mean, to me, by the time an actor shows up, you've been prepping for 9 months.
Yeah.
You have designed every set, you have designed every prop, So, I do it only if they require it. Because I don't want to unpack something and the camera is not rolling or is 2 weeks away. I mean, it's a little bit like casting. I don't know much what to say, same as you. Like I go, it gets uncomfortable. Because if you are really finding things, find them when the camera is right there. But if the actor needs it, or they say, I would like to run this scene, then you do it, because that's his or her process. But I think...
and rehearsal on the day of?
Yeah, or weeks before, whatever.
No,
I mean, I think with an actor, you're there to find out what they want and what they need. What they need, you keep to yourself, and you give it to them on the day. If the actor thinks he needs a partner, but you think he needs a daddy, you become daddy on the day. It depends. So you're there to see that negotiation. But if they ask for rehearsal, you should do your best to provide it. Then I think that other than that, you develop the tools.
When you're on the set, because I know that every single shot, almost the camera is moving, so
yeah.
It's a very complex use of the camera for your storytelling. Yeah. Are you rehearsing your actors before that so that
depends on their precision level. I mean, some actors know the lens, some actor knows what a mark means, and in that, then we dance. Then it's a waltz. If it's a tango, you lead. The camera leads. And I think the camera is an actor for me. The camera is acting. The camera is like a kid that is curious about what's going on. It needs to look around the corner. It needs to come closer. I need to feel the camera having an intention, not a technical intention, but a curiosity. So I keep the camera curious. But what I think is interesting, what you're talking about, is sometimes one thing is rehearsal, the other is to have a set of tools. We learn very fast in our profession that if you need to talk to an actor between takes more than 3 minutes, you're fucked. And you're not giving them anything they can use. All you can do is 3-5 words max. It's faster, there, don't look at their eyes, whatever it is. Yeah. And so what you develop, for example, with Jacob, I said to Bradley Cooper and Nine Morale, I said, you gotta take boxing. Because you got to get punched in the face. And you got to punch people in the face. Because otherwise, you're not a guy in the 30s. You don't know how, everybody knew how to defend themselves. So with Jacob, I said, we have to take Buto, the Japanese theatrical dance of resurrecting the dead. So he learned to disarticulate his body. And we watched silent movies. So you develop that language in common. And then you say, let's do an Emil Jannings hand.
Right.
And then you got that. Right. But that's language, that's not rehearsal. So if you have the tools to talk a common language, that's good. Rehearsal to me, then you're playing the role of the director. Same in casting, I want everybody to get the job. Any actor that walks in, I say, you got the part. That's what I would love to do. Yeah. And in rehearsal, you want to say, this is great, but if it isn't, might as well be close to shooting.
Chloe, talking about rehearsal, and I ask because I know that some of the things that you've spoken about in the work has been dream work, which is a very, very powerful way of, in fact, dealing with self. And I'm curious how that applied, if it did, in terms of rehearsal before you are on set with your actors.
Yeah, I agree with Guillermo. When I'm on the day, the last thing I want to do, I would never want to talk about character arcs and discussing things that are intellectual. I want everyone to shut off their thinking mind as much as possible, so something greater can come through. But in order to do that, the container has to be starting to build way early. And so if they want to talk about character, we spend time talking very casually to get that all out of the system. And then the other thing we do is start building that container. So we do a lot of somatic work, a different type of somatic work. Like sometimes it would be dream work, and sometimes a Jungian dream work, and sometimes it would be like a Hindu tantric polarity exercise, various kind of things, so that we understand the unconscious language, the subconscious language each of the actors speak, and where are their physical edges are with each other. And so they experimented out of that in prep. And so then on the day, they know not just where their own containers are, but where they are in relationship to their co-stars. And then also what dream work allows is we had the whole Shakespeare family with the children, dropped into a collective dream. They're sort of in between sleeping and waking, and they themselves sort of created this memory on a summer day, them together, and things started to come out of their mouths. They started to say things, and that eventually made it into the script. And Paul and Jesse's polarity workshop inspired that scene when he was leaving her after Hamlet died. So I was also writing. This is where I work with a lot of non-professional actors. Who they are became such a huge part of the character. And this is my way of figuring out how to do it with professional actors. How can I safely draw out who they are and let that inform the script, not from a thinking mind, but from their subconscious.
Can you talk a little bit more specifically about the dream work and how it works?
So we just had done like a big workshop at Sundance Film Festival this year, and just to be able to demystify it. People in acting school done it a lot. It's a form of active imagination, and so, but instead of active imagining the scene, you bring your dream in, and then through a meditative breathing somatic exercise, we make the participant extremely calm and in their bodies, and their conscious mind starting to shut down. And then they start to walk us through a dream, as if they're walking us through a scene. And at some point, we will pull them out of their character, their dreamer, which is your egoic self, drop them into something else that's in the dream, and start to tell the dream from the perspective of another person, a dog, a knife, the rain. And then you can look at yourself from that part that you dream and and then you can ask the question, what does the dog know about Guillermo that Guillermo doesn't know about himself? And you're speaking from the dog, but everything in your dream is part of your psyche. So you're having a dialogue with your inner psyche, and everything we write, I believe, every character is kind of part of ourselves as well, and we're working through things in our own lives through our scenes and our characters.
And the dream, would you be saying your dream, in other words, out loud, so that you can then insert these shifts that you just said? So I'd be telling you, is it a recent, one of the moment, one from last night? What are the dreams that get worked on in the process?
You wake up in the morning, you write down your dreams. And like Jessie every morning did it, like fever writing. And so did Paul to a certain extent. And her dreams shaped the script every day. And then, so our AD team, production, is amazing because they're like, okay, so what does the dream say today? Because, we set all this up and it's like 500 years ago, so, now you can't just point whatever you want. I was like, well, the collective unconscious does have a message, so we have to move all of this that way. I'm half joking. I really, to work this way, when you have producers and production team, AD, directorial team, to be so kind, so gracious, and also just to trust the nurturing from them. We would never be able to work this way without them. So.
Wonderful.
This is really, I mean, this is why I love these chats, because you learn. The only time an actor said to me, I want to work with my dream coach, I said, well, he's going to have to dream about that because he ain't coming. Now I'm going to be open. I promise to be open now.
We'll do dream work together.
So there you go, Ryan, for you, rehearsal. Because in your movie, the amazing performance that Michael gives you, and for you as a director, how are you rehearsing with this character and that character with smoke and snack, and it's the same person? And how did you go through the process of rehearsing?
Good question.
With Mike specifically?
Well, specific or rehearsal in general, but I'd like to share what with them. With them, I said with them.
It's not as interesting as what Chloe's doing. What I like to do in general is like a few meetings, you know, like where I'll get one-on-one time with the actor. You know, these are my leads, right? Any character who's like driving a scene, you know what I mean? So like, and I'll get like Miles, Mike, Woomy, Haley, Jamie, Lily, you know, Yao. I'll get just for us to get to know each other, and the whole time I'm trying to figure out, you know, everything I can learn about this person that I'm going to be working with under a time clock, right? Because we are at war with time. You know what I mean? Like it's time and money, right? So I'm listening to them and I'm like, you know, so where are you from? How long you been acting? What's important to you? You know, and I'm like trying to figure out that communication style, that rhythm, you know, and I'm trying to keep a log for how I'm gonna be present for this person. And, you know, what do you like? You know, on set, do you like to rehearse? You know what I mean? Do you like to just jump straight into it? You know, what was your worst experience working before? What was your best? You know, I'm learning these types of things. Because you got to be a different director for every person. Like when you're saying you playing a role, you know, like you got to, I'm sure, Paul, you got to be different for Leo than you got to be for Chase or for Regina or for the gentleman who was in the military. You know what I mean? You got to figure out like how to serve him, right? For Mike, it was interesting because it was a twin performance, so it's a lot of technicality there. And we had the DGA. I called up all my homies who done twin movies before, all of them. You know, the head of our union, Chris Nolan, he has done twins in several movies. You know what I mean? So I'm calling Chris, I'm calling Emma. What'd you do? How'd you do it?
And what'd you learn?
Oh man, too much to talk about in this.
Well, no, a little bit. Come on, just give us a couple.
I mean, I learned that it's not rocket science, you know, which is great. The big thing, and this was what Sean Durkin told me, who did. He did Rachel Weisz's twins, in the remake when they played twins gynecologists. Dead Ringers, thank you. The Cronenberg movie he remade with Rachel Weisz. But with him, he was like, look, you need an acting double, which would be a person who kind of looks like Michael, you know, same height, same weight, same build, who you know, complexion, who can act across from him, so he can have a working eye line and these different things. So we got to work finding a guy named Percy Bill, and the big thing is it's kind of a thankless job because they're gonna be replaced. You know what I mean, in the twinning process. But this person has to be a legitimate actor who can then work with Michael and figure out like what he's gonna do as the other character for the first pass through. And we were able to give him a role in the movie, thankfully. You know, he's the guy who calls out to Delroy Lindo when he yells at the chain gang.
Oh yeah, I felt that guy got shot afterwards, and we didn't get to see it. But never mind. It's just, there's a gunshot that goes off after they pass, but that's not
and then he
important.
shoots in the air.
I didn't know. Okay,
Yeah,
keep going.
it's
Go
okay.
ahead. I thought.
No, he didn't get shot, but no, that's a good. but yeah, so in that circumstance, we would talk about, and a big thing we learn every day, right? Because every scene is different. But a big thing we learned was for Mike, it made sense for Stack to go first on most days, which was strange because Smoke is the leader of the twins. But what he found was that Stack took more energy from him physically because he was moving around more and he was a more positive, energetic person than his brother. So it would be difficult for him to play Smoke for a pass and then change and then be Stack. It was also the issue of the cigarettes because Stack's voice is in a higher register than Smoke's, and the cigarettes would tax his vocal.
Let's talk about that for a second,
Yeah.
because that's a technical sort of aspect of. I think you even actually once said find the voice and you found the character. But I'm interested. When did he find, or both of you find, or the three of you find the voice? When did that happen and how?
He worked with our dialect coach, a woman named Beth McGuire, who taught acting at Yale with your guy. Your actor who's in your movie, Paul. But yeah, I've been working with I met her through Lupita Nyong'o. But Beth is a dialect coach and an acting coach. He and Beth got a house in Ojai, over there by you, Chloe, for like I think a couple weeks. And he just kind of like found the accent and then found the difference between their voices and delivery.
Do you remember when he showed that to you?
He was showing me constantly. Oh. Yeah, he was recording himself on a laptop. He would record conversations between Smoke and Stack, and then we would cut them together and see if we could see the difference. Yeah, but yeah, Stack ends up, he's kind of hey, and Smoke is a little more down here. So yeah, we realized we had to do Stack first if we could. So he would come to set, and we would have to block it, figure out where they're gonna be because of the technical piece. Uh-huh. And he would come to set like dressed as Stack, but he would perform and Smoke first, and Percy would watch. He would think, oh, maybe I'll be here, I'll do that, maybe I'll put the cigarette here, and then Percy would, okay, got it. So then Percy would jump in, and then he'll go be Stack, and then we'll get a take that we like, and he'll go change, we'll shoot something else, he'll come back and Smoke, and we'll shift it. Yeah.
Amazing work. Amazing work.
Amazing.
Rehearsal.
That's amazing.
How do you deal with it?
I love Stack. Stack's my guy. That's what I think I wrote you and Michael. I was like, I knew a guy named Stack, and he was that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the name really fits the person.
Every now and then.
But
So
I love that.
Josh,
It's so hard, man, the technicality. It's crazy to hear. Sorry. Okay.
rehearsal.
Yes.
For you.
Rehearsal.
How do you use it?
Great TV show by Nathan Fielder.
And did you watch all of it? Or
Yeah, he's the best.
how do you use it?
I don't-
Before and when you're on set.
Some scenes you rehearse ahead of time, like before you show up, but not really. I mean, with certain actors, you like with Timmy, we read the script together like a bunch of times, and I'm acting every part.
You are?
Yeah, I'm just reading them, and it's helpful. I mean, Abel Ferrara used to say to me, he said, all right, you do the scene. And I was like, me do the scene? He's like, yeah, you do it. And I would just do the scene with Odessa, but I would do it as Abel Ferrara. And he's like, you're doing me doing the character. I was like, it's how it's gonna be. So he would, and like he didn't, Abel Ferrara, if anyone's ever met him, he has a very specific vibe. That's who he is. But you read through, you talk about the scene as part of it, but then you show up like Paul was saying, and everybody, you shoot it, you shoot the rehearsal. Darius would get light, spend all this time lighting and everything, and I let him do that, and he's a master at it. And then he's like, okay, the actor's gonna be here in this pool of light. I was like, if they wanna be, And he's like, well, what do you mean? No, you tell them to be here. I was like, it's like when I'm writing, you can't tell the characters to do what to do. They'll do what they wanna do. So you naturally, the blocking, you generally know like the natural way of the scene. And they more or less kind of fall into that place, pool's light. But if they don't, it's really interesting because the lighting is not perfect. You know what I mean? They're kind of a little bit outside of the thing, and it's, you know, so you shoot the rehearsals. Half the time, I didn't turn my phone off, man. It's just like, man, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm gonna turn it off right now. Like, my daughter's 6, so she's like,
Well, hopefully
probably,
she gets better.
Daddy, I want to
Turn it
FaceTime.
It ain't bothering nobody, bro.
Okay, it's bothering me. It's bothering me. So yeah, I shoot the rehearsals. It's a, you know, like Werner Herzog talked about, like, you know, first thing you do on a movie is you put a chair in the middle of the room and you just shoot the chair from like 10 different angles, just to like get it over with. And you know, you do that. You do that a little bit with the acting, and sometimes maybe 3 frames are helpful, you know, or because for the sound, you'll use the sound into a different take. One take and bring it into the scene, the take you're actually using. So you never know what's going to be of use, but it's really just getting it over with, because a lot of the times it's just like getting out of the car, Steven Spielberg getting out of the car. It's a little bit of that for an actor too.
What about, you know, I'm thinking about, again, the scene with Dion. You've got all your actors in this room.
Yeah.
And
that's an interesting scene. You're talking about the makeup reveal scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was hard because there's 3 movements to the scene.
Yeah.
And we started shooting on location, and they had like a hard out at 9 p.m. at that. And so we had to choose, like, do that scene or do the lobby scene where he tells her, you know, that's about his purpose. And Jack was like, I can build this bedroom on a set. So we had actually run through the scene for blocking, and they just kind of naturally just started doing the scene, and it was perfect. And I was like, oh man, I'm ready to do this. But I also know Timmy had, like, he was looking forward to doing that lobby scene for the whole movie. And so I was like, well, Timmy's locked in there, and this, you know, so we ended up rebuilding that. Like, it was the last day of shooting, which was technically like an insurance day. And we ended up shooting that first. It's funny because I got in there and I was like, it feels a little smaller than it was on location. I never moved the walls around because you can't move walls around on a location. So Jack's like, no, it's exact. And I was like, well, how? And someone's like, oh, we had to move this sofa in over the walls to get it in. I said, Jack, you couldn't do that on location. You couldn't move the sofa in through the ceiling. He's like, huh. I was like, it must be smaller. So it was a little bit, that like kind of fucked with my head a little bit, because I was like, it's smaller. But they had already kind of done the scene 3 weeks earlier. So there was there was less nerve about it, because it was a very complicated scene, and Odessa and Timmy were just, again, they were kind of waiting for that scene the whole time. But you just do it, you know, you just shoot it. That was crazy, because I had because of the way we had to shoot, I had to have multiple cameras in that scene. But it was like Colin, my main operator, he was like, I've never seen anything like this before, because there was multiple line, they were crossing the line multiple times. So one camera was like single shot, and the second camera was waiting for them to come into the frame. So now they're shooting their part, and then they go back to the other line. So Colin's running again, and it was incredibly stressful. But I think it allowed the actors for this long scene to not worry about marks or anything like that, and it was very freeing.
Got it.
And again, you just shoot. You just shoot.
Question: when you want to adjust a performance, when you've seen something and you felt it and you feel that there's something else that can be done, what's the language? What's the process? And Paul, this may not happen at all, or it may happen every now and then. And you have to say, you want to say, you know, if you did this, how do you adjust if you want to change something you're seeing and feeling?
I don't know. I agree with Guillermo. If it takes more than 3 minutes, there's a foundational problem, and maybe that foundation is generally not the actor. It's usually the writer. You know, maybe everybody's kind of. It's not the oh shit. Well, what if we did this upside down? What if we did it over here? What if you drink a water and you're kind of. You kind of just want somebody to go like, it just sucks and it's never going to make the movie, you know? That's generally what happens. Right. And sometimes you can recognize it very quickly and you go like, I think we're good. You at its best, you recognize this scene's not good, and actually, if it's gone, this scene goes to this scene, and we still have the movie. At its worst, you have a preconceived notion. dummies that we are, sometimes walk in with like, no, this is the best scene in the movie. How can we, the movie doesn't even work without it. It's the whole point of why we're here. And maybe you reshoot it and you keep trying. And there's a thing banging you in the back of the head, goes, pay attention. It doesn't work because it doesn't work. And there's generally a reason for that. It's like why good scenes usually take maybe the morning, you know, or they just happen, and you go, well, okay, what's next? But micro adjustments from time to time, or somebody, you know, the only direction I can ever remember giving to Benicio was that, you know, Leo comes in with all this crazy ass energy, and Benicio's job was to have a totally different energy and not take his energy. And there was one time when Benicio clearly just was taking his energy, and I remember saying, I think you're taking his energy, and he went like, thank you. It was like, that is direction. Like one little thing, just spot it, be there for them. See, you know, you have to kind of be on the outside of the ring. They're in the ring, you know, you're not throwing the punches, you're just watching and one little thing to throw them, ideally. You know.
Thinking about throwing things, ocean waves. Because you, in all these cases here, as filmmakers, you're all writers and directors. So this is not, you know, this is not just a screenplay over here and I'm now have nothing to do with it. The writing is constant, because that's the truth about all of you in this case. Throwing something like Ocean Waves out, how does this, because this is the writer, creator, filmmaker now, suddenly coming up with a line, and how do you work that with your actors so that they can receive that?
Well, Ocean Waves is just a thought that popped into my head, and I gave it to Benicio, but it was part of a large sequence in the film that we rewrote very, very quickly to accommodate a lot of new ideas. Benicio came in with a larger idea that he would have this immigrant community that he was taking care of, you know, amidst this kind of larger chaos that was happening in the movie.
And so this was an addition. This has been his suggestion to you.
His suggestion. And, you know, he described it as, you know, a Latino Harriet Tubman type situation. And it was like, Latino Harriet Tubman type situation. You're like, that's it, you know, that's it. And then you encourage him, and he says, you know, from the heart, no cash. And you're like, from the heart, no cash. And it just, you know, I think maybe I speak for all of us. We're like, maybe you're the writer that gets us there, but there's a certain point when that pen goes down, you just like have to have your antenna on and start listening to everybody, because they're in the three-dimensionality of it all, like they're in it, and they are so much more connected, ideally, to what's happening, and you just have to be ready to receive and write it down and take the credit for it, I guess.
Guillermo, if you want to give an actor a new direction, an adjustment, what happens if you want to do it at all?
Well, the thing is, I mean, there's the duty of what you need to do is clear to you on the day. And, you know, I think that the mythology of the director is that he's a chess player, but it's a contact sport, right? You really are passing the ball, and a fumble is a fumble. Or somebody doesn't throw it, doesn't catch it, is very evident on the day. And sometimes it's in the material. Most of the time you wrote something you thought held and it didn't hold. So, you know, the adjustments are, and the thing is, a film crew and a cast are like gazelles in the savannah. If they smell fire, they'll run. You know, so your duty as a director is to try to say, there's no fire, let's get this together, you know, or they start. And even if you are smelling the fire yourself. So, you know, you try to, you know, what I say is directing is like the force of gravity. Nobody should notice when it's on, but if it's off, everybody's floating in terror. Yeah. You know? So the directorial duty is to try to be direct, to be simple. You want to say, look, this is not working, but in a way that doesn't show it. So it's complicated. It is really a complex gestalt.
Were there moments when, as you recollect this experience, where and this is an example of that you can recall right now?
Oh yeah, I mean every day, and if it's an adjustment on the acting, you have to negotiate with yourself and say, is this an adjustment on the acting, or is it an adjustment on what I expected? Right. Is it working for the scene? Right. Yeah. Then you don't correct it. You see where it goes. But I remember there was a scene where which was written one way, and it was Mia had just visited the creature in the cell, and I ended with her washing his feet with her hair like Mary Magdalene, and Victor watched that, so he was really high, saying you shouldn't talk to it alone, you should not be with him alone, and it was a very charged scene, and all of a sudden I'm watching a John Cassavetes scene in the middle of a Frankenstein movie. It became, Woman Under the Influence in the stairs. And I said, well, let's do this. When we shoot that other scene, you will not wash his feet. It'll end in a different tone, and you will not see it. You will just know that it happened, and let's tone it down a lot more and try it as a confrontation of two minds. But you have to let them run it. You have to let them run it. So there's a few takes where it's Gina Rowlands, it's really intense. And then you go, all right, fellas, and then you adjust accordingly. But it is useful to learn to, look, when you think of the camera as an actor, then the actors are making it happen, and the camera is telling the audience how it happened. The camera is the narrator that tells the audience, and then this happened in a way that is audiovisual, So you have to know if you need to adjust that actor too. Is the camera too loaded? Is the camera too active? You have to play really quick with all the permutations and say, this is what I need to adjust. Sometimes you are adjusting the setting, the light. Instead of standing there so dramatically, let's try it over here. Sit down. So, it is the multiplicity of negotiation in directing is to keep yourself open to all the equations to find the right one. Don't come in with, this is wrong. This is, why is it wrong? It's important. And you need to be fast because you want to be on time and on budget if you can. Yeah. Chloe, remain employable.
Chloe, if you want to adjust a performance
so
on the set, if you want to adjust, what will you do?
Sorry, I'm still digesting what he said.
I know,
this is like a master class being here. It's amazing.
It's the accent.
It's true. And all of you.
And I agree if it's like 4 takes, and my actors are not there, I think something's wrong. Something else is wrong. It could be the writing, it could be the lights, it could be the blocking, and I try to look at the whole ecosystem first before forcing them to keep going, unless they really feel like they have something else they want to try. But my biggest challenge has always been, how do I know that it's not right? And that is, the more films I make, the more I am, it feels like it's a very internal process. Before it's more here. And also I'm usually one of the editors on my films. So I think I'm also thinking the bigger picture. But late on Hamnet, I'm where the camera is because I know that's where the audience is. And I'm actually try to do all those somatic work that I ask my actors to do. So it's like, how am I feeling when I see a take? Maybe intellectually it's not right, but I just want to double check, like, what's my body doing? Because that's where the audience are going to be transmuted in that moment. And so maybe it's like, so I ask, like, what am I feeling? And if the answer is if I'm feeling something that I shouldn't be feeling, then I'm like, is that the answer to something? So when the logic of the king fails, I'm like, what's the inner oracle trying to speak?
Wow. And were there examples when that you can remember, and here is an example when the inner oracle responded to, this is not as the truth that I want to be feeling, then what might you be saying to your performer?
So an example is when Paul comes back, when William Shakespeare comes back and see Hamlet, his son's body there, he thought it was the daughter that was sick. Right, so Paul was just he's giving me, he's like, I'm just gonna go all, because he is feeling all these emotions building up, right? So we always like our actors, whether right or wrong, to just release it, give it all. There's no shame, no mistake. So he comes in and he's deeply emotional, it's big, and I could feel something in the body, I was very offended by that. Same as Jesse, because we felt like, he hasn't earned this. He wasn't here. He left us. And I knew that feeling, and I had to trust it, even though on paper, of course, when the father sees his son's body, he's going to react that way. And of course, Paul, the actor, is giving that brilliant reaction. But I had to trust the inner oracle that says, like, actually, but it turned out to be correct for his character because he would hold it back because there's no space for him to grieve in that household. That's why he had to leave. That's why he had to do it through his creativity, because he never had space to grieve, even as a little boy in his household, right? So then when I go to Paul in that moment is that the great Francis McDormand taught me, gave us the simplest note, the least amount of words possible. Half.
Yeah.
20%, I think get out, go away. Yeah, so that's what I said to Paul, maybe half, and then go again, less. And then like the actors knows, they know how to interpret that simple essence. And then in the end, he end up doing a little like smile. Yeah. It's the irony, the dramatic irony. And that tiny little smile is the most heartbreaking. It was the last take after quite a few less.
Yeah.
You want to adjust the performance, Ryan? If that ever happened on this show, what do you do and how do you do it?
Rare on this one. Now that scene was so true though, Chloe.
You like it?
I loved it, man. Me and Josh, both our little ones is sick and far away. I thought about your movie this morning when I had to leave. Yeah.
But his boy told him he should come here.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. But I took the smile as like him being proud of the kid.
That he was brave. Yeah.
Now I'm about to, give me a sec, bro. Yeah, well, just a performance, yes. I'm just in agreement with all of these masters talking, because I'm just, it's what I go through is all what they talking about more eloquently than I can. So yes, I write and direct. I try to do the job of a writer as much as I can before we get to set, but I also leave, like if I'm filling up a cup, I'll leave it half. Like I want to fill it up to about 2/3, and I tell everybody I'm still writing. you know what I mean? Like I might hear something on the day that inspires something. I might change a thing here and there, but as long as we on the same page about what the scene is about, and as long as everybody knows that about me, you know what I mean? Like that gives me the freedom to be able to hear and add. And usually, if you hire really great actors, if something's wrong, it might be something with the writing. You know what I mean? It might be the blocking. And I try to find that, in terms of adjustments, like Chloe's talking about. Yeah, like it's so much truth in what Guillermo is saying too. If an actor has an idea about something, if they made their mind up that they want to try something, it's usually good to let them get it out of their system. Yeah. And actually film it, you know what I mean? Like give them that respect, because once they've had a chance to do that a couple times, they'll be more open to whatever you think the adjustment is. I've made the mistake before in my younger days of saying, hey, we're not gonna do that. And now they resent that decision that's been made. It's like, hey, you're not letting me show you what I had. How can I respect you as a leader? So you never want to do that for all the filmmakers out there, But yeah, and for me, like Michael knows this about me, but yeah, some of the best lines in the movie, I think, are things that actors brought up in meetings. For instance, there's a scene in the juke between Stack and Mary, Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld, and we were just working the scene in prep, and it was like, yo, what do you want to say to him? And knowing all of the backstory, and Haley wanted to reference her age. She was saying, like, I was young enough that I believed that you were coming back, but now I'm a grown woman and I know it was never gonna happen, So that idea was something that I couldn't write myself. I've never been a young woman in love, you know what I mean? Like with a guy like Stack, even though it's billions of women on the planet that's been young and in love with a guy like Stack, But I didn't have that perspective. So she said that, and I heard it, put it in the script, but I didn't know what Stack would say back to her until we were there in the light, and we had a situation where, Stack had this hat on, and Autumn was like, yo, I can't see his eyes, bro. You gotta be comfortable with some Godfather type shit happening here, you know what I mean? And I'm comfortable with it, but then I was like, hey, Mike, maybe he takes his hat off, and as soon as he did that, and I saw his face, I heard the words that he would say back to her. He would tell her the truth, which is in his fucked up pimp way, you know what I mean? He would say what really happened, you know what I mean, from his perspective. And you hear it you hear that on the day, and I can't take responsibility for what Haley said, and I feel like I can't really take responsibility for that. You know what I mean? It was the lighting, it was the crew, it was Mike's performance, it was everything. And then you just hear it and you gotta know to listen to it,
Nice. We got it.
Can I say something? And sometimes
I hope so.
Sometimes the thing is, sometimes you don't have to take. But if it's not working with everything, sometimes you take away something. Yeah. You take away an action, or you take away two lines, and those were the stumbling blocks. And I think it's important to say that you need to try it with the actor, because I think when you defend, you debilitate. When you're defending something, you're debilitating it further, and when you're clarifying, you're obscuring. So just let it make itself evident, and if you run it enough times, it does. I mean, sorry to.
No,
but I think
that's a good
it's
observation.
exactly that.
Yeah.
Josh, if you wanted to give a redirection, an adjustment, how and when and did you?
Everybody here, it's nice to hear. We're all dealing with this together. It's like, when you have if it takes more than a couple words, or you're in the conversation for longer than 60 seconds, 50 seconds, you're going down the wrong path. Certain actors, high performance actors like Timmy and Tyler was this way as well. It's like Tyler always said to me, I'd say like 3 words, he goes, say less. And then he would just do the scene. And he was, I knew he was like an incredible performer. I've seen him a bunch, and he's also a filmmaker. So he was able to take like 1 word, 2 words. Timmy was the same way. Some of the, first timers, it's different. You're kind of, within it with them, and you're giving them small little directions of stuff that they can relate to. You're just inside the scene. And as everyone here is saying, is like, as a writer, you know where the ideas came from. And sometimes you just come up with an analogy, something that means something to you, and you just say it really quickly. But you don't have, if you keep it going for a little bit too long, the scene's dead. It's like, you just have to keep it alive. And the second you talk too much, it's like you're saying, like, the fire, nothing's on fire. Everything's all good. There's no problem. Everything's, where everyone's, and it is true. That's kind of like the little bit of the loneliness of the director. You got to keep it together no matter what, even if an actor is like maybe spiraling out. But if they are, it's because of something's not working, and it's not their fault. It's probably maybe the script or the blocking, and you just kind of, you work with the actors. I mean, I know with Timmy, when he would do a scene that he really liked, he'd be like, one more. And he just kept wanting to stay in the scene. And you do want to give the respect to the actor, and you're like, okay, we'll give you another one. And then at some point, it's like, he just doesn't want to stop. He likes the scene so much. So he just keeps going. After 3 takes, you're like, all right, we got to go. Just please, one more. And then some actors like, well, let me give you this. And it's, you got to let them do that because you got to have the respect for them. But oftentimes you're like, no, I don't want that. We got it. You know what I mean? But okay, you can do your thing. Let's watch. And then you're watching, you're like, huh, okay. Nice. but it's again, it's all collaborative in a way, and sometimes actually it is a little bit of the camera too. Like if the feeling of the camera operator is in the wrong place, that's why your camera operator is like one of the biggest parts of your casting process, of like your assembly. They have to have the very specific vibe. They're there, but they're not there. They're totally in line with what you're thinking. They're an extension of you. They don't get enough credit in the industry. They're incredible people. So,
Let's talk locations. Every one of your films has visual stunningness and separateness to it. What were some of the tougher locations for you to get besides the phenomenal roads? What were some of that were challenged? I was even interested, even in the beginning, that detention center, right in the opening, how that evolved. And so talk about locations.
Well, the detention center is up in Northern California, and it was a detention center, 7 or 8 years ago, temporary, the first time around, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
But it was a prison, and then it was empty, and then it was a detention center. So that was easy. Getting permission to shoot crossing the border was difficult. And I worked with a great location manager, Michael Glazer, great production designer, Flo Martin. They secured the possibility of shooting in the actual border crossing. And I kept saying, well, how did you do it? And they just said, don't ask. And that was a very short shot of Tiana Taylor's character crossing through into Mexico in Calexico, Mexicali / El Centro. And so I don't know how it happened, but when we had shot the opening sequence once, and we didn't really like the way that it went, and we wanted to put it at the border by San Diego, right on the wall. And so we had done such a good job, the Border Patrol was so happy with us. The first time around, when we went with Tiana, they said that we could shoot on the wall and create a temporary internment camp under the freeway. And I said again, how did you do this? And they said, do not ask. I don't really know. And so we shot that opening sequence in 3 days, just waiting for somebody to say, you need to go away. What are you doing here? Even to the point where we're shooting fireworks off across into Mexico. While we were shooting, we would watch people. I couldn't tell our background extras from people who were really crossing the border. I'm not kidding. I was shooting a scene in a tiny little trailer, and I saw a family walk by behind Tiana, and I thought, well, that either the ADs let some extras, walk through to go to the bathroom or something like that, but it was a family, that was crossing the border. That is I don't know what the hell happened there, and I didn't ask any questions. And so by the time we got out of there, I still don't know the answers. It's still a great mystery to me. But securing that location was hard. Securing the locations on the hills was challenging, only because as barren as it is, it's kind of shocking when you have ITC shut something down for 15 minutes. We were always surprised at how many cars. It was a kind of main artery that led to the Arizona border near Yuma. That was challenging just in terms of the logistics of how many cars and stunts and people and things and shutting things down in the middle of the desert and the danger of the road. There was no shoulder. So that was a kind of very challenging logistics for a great AD team and a great stunt coordinator.
The shack that they live in, can you talk about that?
That's up in Eureka, which is a wonderful part of the world, beautiful place of the world. That sounded perfect. I meant to do that. But what I meant is, it is a beautiful place in the world and a horrible place to scout. And the reason why is, I like to scout locations, just get in the car and start driving around and find things and knock on doors and look for things that you might want. It's the best. Because any folder that's put in front of you is some fucking thing that's been in 500 movies, right? And you're looking for something, and the unintended consequence of the benefit of it is you get to meet people, and that's talk about casting. Then you're gonna knock on a door in Inglewood, and you're gonna meet, now you're the grandma in the movie. Great, okay.
Was that how the grandma came?
Absolutely.
I was gonna ask you, is that how?
Well, yeah, that's how it works. You know, in El Paso is the same way. You're in a community where you need the support of that community. You are a tourist there. You are best served by asking them for help, you know, and then everybody's kind of collaborating in it. But at Eureka, it is a place and a part of the world where people do not want you knocking on their door. And so to go down a long driveway with a sign that says, "Don't come in," you know, I'm very daring, but at a certain point, we get halfway down that driveway and say, "I'm not fucking doing this." You know. So it was a process of flyers and things and looking for somebody who might say, you know, I've got what you're looking for in Google Earth, and looking for little cabins and, you know, looking for something that had in your mind. It was like a tiny little shack hidden, surrounded by redwoods. Came across that. And it was, you know, the bones of it are what we wanted, and we just set, and then it was set decoration. But a really challenging but very fun way to work. In other words, it's only big enough for 4 people to be in there. You know, it's like, you know, so the world is gone except for Colin, myself, you know, boom operator. Maybe Adam's tucked in a back bedroom, but he'd get bored of that and go outside. And so it becomes a very intimate situation with, you know, 100 people standing in the pouring rain outside looking at you like, you fuckers, you know, and mud and all that. But good for us, you know. So
you decided not to build this. I'm fascinated.
No, it was never a thought to build it. It seemed crazy, you know. It's going to sound different. It's going to look different, you know. Part of the joy of making this film was traveling around so much, to go to Eureka, to be there for 2 weeks, and then move on to Sacramento, and then move on to here. So each location that we traveled to had multiple opportunities for multiple different scenes.
There's the finding where the Christmas Adventure Club is, which is this very strange move through a very strange space to a very strange, even stranger space with the bird and the. Could you?
I will. Yes. So that I had the idea that they enter into a kind of traditional suburban home. We knew we were going to try to look for that in Sacramento. And irony of all ironies, the one that we found happened to be Ronald Reagan's house.
Oh my God.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah,
so,
okay.
So that was Ronald Reagan's home where he lived when he was governor. He didn't live in the governor's mansion. I think he lived there. And that presented itself with a staircase down to another room and a weird door that was there that opened to like nothing. It was like, all right. Months and months of looking for something, we found what we were looking for, whether that's by accident or because we were doing the hard work of, you know, coming across Ronald Reagan's house. There's a long hallway that the character walks through that we had found in Stockton. It was an old, like a boxing hall, and it was this massively long hallway that just looked fantastic. So you go, okay, this works, that's great, so we'll shoot that in Stockton. We've got Ronald Reagan's house in Sacramento, and he's opening the door into a set that was built, that was created. And I think the only thing I could say about that set is, you know, we had a traditional kind of men's lounge idea for these, you know, the Christmas adventurers would have that type of energy. And every time that you think of a set or something, like an office like that, you're going to run into the problem of, okay, so a guy sitting at a desk and what's behind him, you know? And it was just going to be a wall, or it's going to maybe a bar, or something's light up, because, you know, you're just going to shoot into a wall. And the closer you look under the hood on these types of people who are convinced that immigration is a massive problem. One of their justifications is nature and birds. Yeah, I don't know, it's a bunch of horse shit, really. But so if they were that in love with birding, then wouldn't they have a kind of diorama of birds behind them, that mountain's majesty and all that kind of shit? Yeah. So we it created a diorama, so they could sit and look at their birds.
Yeah,
can I ask one question?
Amazing.
Birds, but don't birds defy borders?
Well, you have to talk to them about that logic.
These are the stuffed ones. That's when they got them. Obviously, I assume, Guillermo, almost everything was built. The tower itself is such a phenomenal space.
Yeah.
When did you conceive that it would have this circular? I know the circular mode of some of the visuals in your movie is there. But talk about conceiving this tower, because it's such an important part of the piece, and how you got it designed. And Medusa's head, sorry.
Scottish architecture is sort of insane in a great way. They have flourishes that are very Gothic, but they're very their own. They build these towers with a crown on top. There are several in Scotland, and that is based actually on a real tower which is erected in honor of Braveheart, of the character that was Braveheart. And we went there and I saw it and I said, this but bigger. It's not very subtle that it's a phallic sign. It's there and it's crowned and it's big. And but I wanted circles in the language of the movie, a lot of circles, because it's a circular tale, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted a birth canal for the creature to come out into the world. So I studied 1700s to 1800s water towers and where they would be and how would they siphon, and it kind of made sense. What you need is an alibi, for it to make sense. So that was part of it, and then the pediments of the tower, which were built to scale, these giant pediments that were about 2 stories high. Mm-hmm. I said, we're building them because I need people to be dwarfed by them, right? It needs to feel like that. And we found them, those are a block away from the BBC radio in London. I said that, but much bigger, right? Which is an instruction I repeat oftentimes. But the language of the tower needed to make real sense. I think when you're dealing with something so implausible as the creation of life, you want things to be very diagrammatic for the audience. The lighting hits there and goes down through a thing and goes down there, and the lab is even further down. So the geography has to be, and then we lay out the geography on a map really carefully, and it has to make sense. With Pacific Rim, every time they were moving left to right, they were going away from this, or is Indians and cowboys, right to left, left to right, blah, blah, blah. So, I try to the audience to have a geography in their head of where everything is. But on location scouting, I think that the most dangerous thing a director can do is look at a location book that the location scouts have. It's like looking at the toothless horde photography in the Dubai Squad album. It's like, this has been used 150 times. And it's great. And then you go, has anyone shot before here? And then, no. And there's marks on the floor. So I think I wanted to talk about that because what I do is I go into when I'm scouting, I'm on the spectrum. I'm in the car looking out the window. I don't want to talk to anyone. And I always say, what's that? And we have found places where no one has shot before, which is the good news and the bad news. Because once you start shooting, people go, what the hell are these savages doing? But I had a location that was exactly like yours. In Hamilton, Ontario, they cook a lot of crack. And we were in a neighborhood where it smelled like they were cooking a lot of crack. And I said, let's see this house. And it said, don't go further than here. And we knocked and we went in, and when we came out, there were 20 people surrounding the scouting van, and we said, let's reproduce this on stage.
Right. By the way, in terms of, for example, the mansion,
the movie was a mixture. I wanted to go places, So we shot in the same mansions that Kubrick shot Barry Lyndon, and inevitably he had done the scouting for us. So what's the best angle? We inevitably ended on the angle he shot. Not as an homage, but you can disagree with him. And then when we were looking for the empty ice space, we went as further north in Canada as we could. And I said, no, take me to the locations where Alejandro shot The Revenant, which were, and we went, and it was an incredible landscape. But if you turn to the right, there was a Popeye's fried chicken. If you turn to the left, there was. So we said, why not get the cachet of The Revenant and have a Popeye bucket, But, so you need to negotiate convenience and spectacle.
No, but you built this ship.
Well, yeah, we built the ship entirely. The ship is real in every shot. There's no digital ship, and we built it on a gimbal to move, and et cetera, et cetera. And there was no stage big enough for that, so I said, let's build it on the parking lot, and freeze the parking lot, and put real snow in the parking lot, and build the icebergs and so forth. But I think that
the interiors of the ship.
Interiors are built inside.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's again, the location is character, wardrobe is character. So design is character. So, the thing that it blows me away when there's skateboarding on the roof. That is so. Can I ask a question? Did you find that on the day, or did you know it from the beginning? Because it's one of the most magical moments of pure cinema.
It was both, because as you might know, you can't just go shoot on a rooftop. I mean, I thought, well, just run around, we'll shoot on these rooftops. And everyone was like, you are not going to just run around and shoot on rooftops, the security of it and all that kind of stuff. So everything was in place. But when those fellas run and jump and their silhouette, that was just, the movie gods gave us that one. It was like, I wish I could say that I drew that one out, but no, that was just a gift.
A gift.
Yeah.
How many rooftops did you work?
Yeah.
Because there are at least 3 or 4 that you worked.
There's 3 or 4. I mean, downtown El Paso is not very big, and it's an amazing city. There's a tremendous amount of money that went into that city, sort of Mexican Revolution time, everybody coming over. And so at one point, there were more movie theaters in El Paso than anywhere else in the world. Department stores, incredible with... I know Pancho Villa's been in every place in El Paso, they say, but he really was, a picture of him in the ice cream parlor and all that stuff. So it is crumbling a tiny little bit, but that architecture still remains. And it was kind of, so that was our backlot. All of downtown El Paso was our backlot, and it was just bringing it back to life in terms of lighting up signs and things like that,
But I think the distinction between location and set is the same as working with non-actors or actors.
Right.
The non-actor is the location, and it's going to give you stuff that you're not going to get by imagining it. Yeah. And then you yield to that, and you say, well, what am I going to find here?
When the ice actually breaks and he falls in the beginning, how did you construct that?
When the breaks under him, we built the whole gimbal. We did the slope towards the ship really, really slow, because I wanted the opening shot to be really far away from the ship. So we were on the other side of the lot, and we started the incline millimeter by millimeter until you didn't notice, but the ship was several feet higher on the ground. And we built an iceberg that was cable controlled with servos. Wow. So that he would flip on the iceberg and go under the ice into water, which is Christopher Leon, Dracula, Prince of Darkness. But I wanted it to be physical, to really sink him
and it feels
in the
like
water.
That.
Yeah.
The Tudors' spaces in your movie, particularly the exteriors, I realize it's quite amazing. I'm talking about the Tudor houses and the little town. Uh-huh. Where and how?
Well, I learned a big lesson on Hamnet because I always used to this location only. I want to shoot on location always. And then when we went to look for those homes, and I did find something, and then you look around, you go, this is a health hazard because, it's so old, it's about to fall apart, and there's traffic right next door. So we built a lot of the interiors, and then that turned out to be really a blessing in disguise. But then the exterior, there's nothing you can do. we didn't have a lot of money, so we go to a town and then we can afford visual effects, but 3 shots, tops, like 3 angles. And so then we just try to look for a corner. If you have a corner, then you kind of don't have the most expensive thing is you have to shoot down the street. Then you have to build everything. And so how can I constantly not have any depth in the shots so that I can save money? And so we found this town in Wales that has a nice like T going on there. Well, actually it's a cross, but then there's enough angles that there's always an existing building behind my actors that we can put a little bit blue and make some adjustment, but never have to shoot down anything. And so that's one. And some of these other exteriors were found but through the National Trust. And so there's some existing ones with the farmhouse, but the Globe Theater was built completely. I went to the real Globe Theater in London, and I had a total panic attack when I got there because I had what I had in my head, and then there's no other Globe you can go to, so you hope this one could work, and you walk in. And it's for the tourists, it's modern. And then the real one burned down, and then it's very, very large. And I know my lenses are gonna be a bit wider, and also we couldn't afford more than 300 extras, which can only fill a corner of that globe. Because they have to, it's expensive. So then we know we only have 300 extras, and we have to now build the globe, and we can't afford that either. So and I was crying, and the entire scout team was there. And then my production designer came to me. She put her hand on my arm. She said, "Chloe, how do you want Agnes to feel when she enters the globe?" I said, "I wanted her to feel like she's inside of a hollow of a tree." And then she goes, "We can do that." And our visual effects team were there too, and they were like, "Yeah, we could do that." And then, but we have to, we can't afford it, but we can afford like 70% of it, and maybe just 1-2 floor, and then use visual effects for the rest. But then, in that moment, when you have your teams around you like that, and they get to, even if you can't see it, it's also impossible and hopeless. They're able to really farm out that thing. Yeah. That's the most important thing for you. And then use their immense talent to recreate that for you. So I learned a lot from the limitations on this.
I'm curious because of the corner that you were just talking about. There's this wonderful scene when the father and son separate.
Yeah.
It is outside.
Oh, that's another reason why we took a lot of inspiration from the Zone of Interest, and because I love that film, and they use a lot of, we call the CCTV point of view, and it actually works for us both thematically because it's an omnipresence that's watching our lives, like it's a play. But at the same time, it saves money for us because you shoot the ground. Because the ground is easy to make it look like it's 500 years ago. So if you don't have any horizon, you don't have to worry about all the things you have to erase. And yeah.
Rowan, I'm actually thinking about
Thank you.
I'm actually thinking about the cotton fields, besides whatever tough locations that you had. Where did you find those cotton fields?
So our production designer, Hannah Beakley, who I worked with on every feature film I've made, she lives in New Orleans. And we were, the film takes place in the Mississippi Delta. And like, if any of y'all have been there, like what it's known for is just being extremely flat. Yeah. Which is like, when I went there for the first time, it affected me dramatically because I'm from Northern California. Like close to the topography where Paul shot a lot of his movie, and all we got is like hills and coastline, trees, water. Like I'd never been somewhere where I felt like I could see the arc of the end of the earth. And when I scouted, it was dead of the winter, so none of the plantations were in bloom. But I could see that quality of isolation you know, that you feel when you're in a place like that. And it was the closest I ever felt to that was being actually on the continent of Africa, like being in like East Africa, like in Kenya, with some of the tea plantations that I saw when I was there. So I wanted that feeling. And Mississippi was out of tax credits. They also didn't have a lot of crew support, stage support that we would need. So you know, we made the choice for Louisiana early, and I was nervous about it, but Hannah was confident, you know. And so I've learned to trust her over all our movies. But the thing is we had to drive out to like Thibodaux, Louisiana, to find and Braithwaite, these places that are distant from the city, to find their flat environments and their plantations. But what happened in Louisiana is that sugar became more a higher profit margin than cotton. You know, it was like 3x type of profit margin, and also easier to plant in Louisiana. So all of the places that work cotton farms have been converted to sugarcane plantations, like way before we got there. So you know, we used Hannah found hibiscus plants, which are like a cousin of cotton, and they planted hibiscus, and then they attached cotton to them, like basically like sewed it to them, and so it's big swaths of anything where our actors or extras will be navigating and moving through. Those are hibiscus plants that they sold cotton to. Yeah,
fabulous.
Yeah, and then we used visual effects to duplicate
Got it.
in the distance.
And building the juke joint?
That was all Hannah. So it was a lot of builds in our movie. The juke, Smoking Annie's shack, the church. Those are the big ones. I feel like I'm leaving something, man. Usually Zenzi sits right here and she'll remind me. She in the Bay. Yeah, but yeah, she built that stuff, man. She drew it and built it, and we do a lot of research, you know. And I knew I wanted what they bought to have had history as some type of meal, right. You know, that concept of you know, capitalism. For my people as being something that's like a machine that kind of like grinds you, you know. And we knew in Mississippi, it would either be a sawmill or a sugar mill, you know, and a lot of timber in that region. So you know, Hannah called me one day like, Ryan, it's gonna be a sawmill. So I'm like, all right, you know. And yeah, we built it, we drew it up. And she made it on what was a golf course that got overgrown and just turned into like a gator farm. You know what I mean? Like just alligators and snakes everywhere. But I remember the location scout, bro. We getting attacked by mosquitoes and shit. And Hannah's like, all right, Ryan, so it's gonna be here. You know, and I'm like, great. Get back in the scout. You know, we just needed water and space. You know, yeah. And she built it. She built the facing out there. So all our exterior stuff, you know, with the cars and everything, and a lot of the hallway stuff that's looking out is there. And then we built the inside on soundstage called Second Line Soundstage, right in the middle of New Orleans. It was beautiful, bro. I lived like 2 blocks away.
And the water that's next to the juke that we have near the end, is that a total other different location?
No, that's there. Yeah, we built the juke next to the water, so that's a real body of water. But it's, once again, infested with alligators, bro. Like so we built, you know, Hannah and her team in special effects, they built, like, so imagine this is your river. They built a little lake alongside of it. You know what I mean? That we could put the actors in.
Without the alligators.
And then use VFX.
Dug it.
And like no bullshit, bro. We'll be out there in the middle of the night, and the animal wranglers they'll be standing there, and they'll be sweeping a flashlight, right? And I'll stand next to him and I say, man, how many gators we got out there? And they say, you see those 2 dots there? That's one. You see those 2 dots there? That's another one. You see those 2 dots floating? That's a big one. And I'm like, I'm like, how big? And he's like, well, those are his eyes. And there's a tail, you know? And I'm like, bro, what? No. And then they would watch us shoot. You know what I mean? Like they would literally watch us shoot. They'll just be like sitting there like man, y'all gotta that clock's ticking. Y'all gotta get that first shot up. You know what I mean? And
Josh, tell us about your movie is. Did you go to Egypt? No, your movie is everywhere. Tell
They
us
were
about,
very
what
generous in Cairo.
What were your toughest locations for you?
Say that again?
The toughest locations for you.
The toughest was probably the bowling alley. Was the toughest. Because we needed, we were very adamant about getting a period bowling alley. And there's only was one that I had found, it was in Pennsylvania or something. That's not an option. We were shooting in New York, we couldn't move around. And Jack, production designer and the locations department, right, Ross Broder and Matt Kanan and Samson Jacobson, we combed. And what's cool is like you're talking about Google Maps and stuff. Our job is pretty interesting because it's like a collection of all jobs in a way. And you really get to feel like a kid and a little bit like surveying lands and things like that. And all the New York stuff, growing up in New York, I kind of knew where the barn finds were, that you can be like, oh, that's untouched, we can make that work, we can put it. But the stuff outside New York, I was like a city slicker going out there and knocking on doors and stuff. Hey, how you doing? But Jack was, we found one bowling alley. It just would be so expensive to, in 1954, they invented automatic pin setting. And so before that, our movie's 52, it was hand setting. And you had people back behind the scenes placing the pins. And the ball always was above ground. That's the idea of feeding it. It was all gravity based. And I wanted. Now, it's not a bowling movie, but it was in the background. I really wanted that. And I had this idea to set that whole sequence in it was like a ping pong parlor / bowling. That doesn't exist. So we had to find a bowling alley big enough and like minimum 14 lanes, and then had to have an area where we could put 6 tables. And it had to feel like this isn't a period film. It's a contemporary movie shot in 1952. That was what Jack said. I'm going to design a documentary for you. I'm sure you got to experience that a little bit on There Will Be Blood. And so he thinks that way. And so he found this place that was 3 hours from New York and way outside the zone. It cost a lot more money. And we went there, and it was in a pretty depressed little town named Hancock, New York. And the son of the people who built it was there, and he showed us. He had a picture from '47 when it was built. And the difference is like, okay, and it was in pretty big disrepair, but everything was more or less kept. And if you dug a little bit, you can find the original remains. But we had to bring it back and make it feel new, because it was, not everything in a period film is old. This was relatively new, so we had to build a platform out to make room for the tables, and then of course a location is nothing without people. Like Eric, what's the production designer's name in McCabe and Mrs. Miller? Eric Larson, maybe. He would go to the town and grab all the guys in the bars and bring them to the set of McCabe and Mrs. Miller. So they were rowdy, and you show up on set and you felt it. They made it alive. But because it was so far away, we couldn't bring our extras pool that we were going, Jen and I were pulling from people for the films the cast that didn't make those previous movies. So my wife, who's a producer on the movie, and someone who lived up near the bowling alley, they started to find through local papers and things like that, the people. And because I knew with that scene, it was going to be a lot directing Timmy through the background, and they were going to be, and we drove a handful of extras up. So it was like, once Jack did his job, Jack would love it. He was like, okay, now let me see the people you have. And it was we would work together. So it was a lot. It was a big strain on the budget of the film. And I remember the Bond company came that day.
Oh, okay.
And they wanted to see my shot list, and we had one day to do like 8 pages. And and I had to I had some JFKs, but not.
I have so many more questions to ask, but I'm going to ask just our last question.
Okay.
Which is, I want to know what the last shot that you wanted us to experience, the last image in your movie, the last thing we take. What's the last image? And yours is complicated, Ryan, because there's 3 versions of that last image. But I'm curious, the choice of what the last frame is that we see, what was that for you, Josh? And when did you make that mind up?
You were talking about going into production?
No, this is talking, we're through.
We're done.
You're
You've
editing,
delivered
you're
the
done,
movie and
you're
everything.
in your editing room, you're locking your picture, this is the last shot of your movie.
Well, it was I think the ending of the film, it was very important that Marty is humbled by infinity. He looks into his child's eyes and he sees like expansive time. It's way beyond he'll never know how far that goes. And he's humbled. The movie's about humility in many ways. So we were editing in the credits. We had credits over the kids to make it seem like life was moving on. And then Timmy's performance was so strong and complicated. And we found that there was a certain time, like, if you held on it too long, you fell into a different kind of headspace. So it was the, figuring out, and then in sync with the Tears for Fears, Kurt Smith, figuring out musically what's the right way out of it. So it was that moment of almost uncertainty in Timmy's eyes, but is it happy? What is a happy ending? Is it haunted? It had to have kind of a little haunted feeling and feel like it could go on forever. So it was very difficult to find like the moment, the 1 second
You
of
found
Timmy.
it.
I hope so.
You found it.
Thank you.
Ryan, you have to stay in your movie through the credits to get to your end of your movie.
Yeah.
How did that happen? There are 3 endings here.
Yeah, there are. Man, how did that happen? We wanted the movie to feel like a concert, because it's a movie about musicians, and like I haven't been to as many concerts as I would have liked to have been. I was actually at my little brother's concert the other night, and he got his first encore request.
Amazing.
and I was there, and I saw it, and I cried a lot, and I started choking up a little bit, because it's such an awesome thing that can happen with musicians, and when a musician's big, it's expected. It's almost like a joke that everybody's in on. They run off stage before they sing their biggest hit. You know what I mean? And then they come back out. But I love that feeling in a movie that's about musicians. I thought, we should do a encore, and I'll tell y'all a quick story, because this shit really happened. One of my longest term collaborators, the only person I've been working with longer than this person is Ludwig, my composer, and Zinzi, my wife, right? But this the person that's in third place for like the psychosis of working with me long term is Michael Shaver, my picture editor. And I put him through hell on this movie, man, because we had a tight timeline. We were testing it and everything. We were going to do a test at a time that we had just done another test, and we tested another version of it. And I remember walking in and looking in his eyes, and he was like fed up with me, you know what I mean? So I went back behind his back and met with the heads of the studio and post and said, hey guys, I think we got to push this test a couple weeks. And they were like, okay. So I went back in and told him, and he was like, oh, thank God. I think I got to take a couple moments, because I was about to lose my shit. I'm like, all right. So I gave him some time, and then he knocked on my door in post and said, hey, come here. And I came in and I sat down, and he says, man, I had a day without no stress, and I think I found the ending of our movie. So then he plays what is the second ending of the movie, like which is after Stack comes back in the 90s and all of that stuff, and they for a few hours we were free, they say all of that, and then he goes, and I'm used to seeing Buddy Guy smile, which is how I wrote the script, seeing this old man who finally is a blues musician, finally has lived enough life to have something actual to say. He's not just a phenom anymore. He's the thing that Delroy Lindo is, And I thought that was fine to see a Buddy Guy smile. How good can you get, cut a movie out? And he cuts to this shot of the 3 guys, like on a boom shot that we did on a day when we was just like grabbing shit, you know what I'm saying? And I realized, oh man, like this is what happens when your crew not stressed out, right? but that for me is the true ending of the movie, where you realize for him, he won just by spending time with his cousins.
I will say that I wrote when I wrote you after I saw the movie. It was that we had originally had an ending that.
Bro, is that true?
That's true. Yeah. Originally, the movie kept going over the credits all the way to the '80s, and it ended with Marty at a concert watching Tears for Fears, and it gets even more similar to yours. Watching Tears for Fears, and he's thinking about the lyrics, "Everybody wants to rule the world" with his granddaughter,
Holy
and about like
shit.
how everyone can't rule the world, and then Milton, Kevin O'Leary's character, pops up behind him and takes a bite out of his neck.
Perfect.
But it was so similar.
That's why the two of you are sitting next to
That's
Chloe, the last image. The last
Sorry,
image.
sorry.
No.
Sorry, Chloe.
Jess, it's
I didn't mean to
great.
do
Is
that.
that true?
Did y'all
I
shoot it?
love it.
No.
The last image of your movie.
Man, I'm sorry.
How
I
did
didn't
you
mean to do that,
decide
Chloe.
it?
I liked it.
I was about to say something serious.
No, I know. Going into Ham now.
Someone said to me recently, I thought it was really beautiful, that the grief is the placenta that you need to be in for the rebirth. So when you lose someone, or you lose something, or a sense of purpose, faith, self, whatever, you died in a way, the version of you, because the world that you live in with that thing, that person, no longer is. So in a way, you died, and you need to be reborn. And because we live in a society that doesn't give a lot of space or time, or even the rights to grieve, therefore you don't get to sit in that placenta. And often, sometimes you get stuck. You don't get to be reborn. Because in Hamlet, they say, Shakespeare wrote, "All living things must die, passing through nature to eternity." For me, eternity is love. So tragic things, and death included, is not a bad thing. It is, but there needs to be that process for rebirth. There's a chrysalis process. And so for me, a film is not a linear thing. It's not a line, a story. For me, a story is sometimes a circle, most of the time a spiral. And so the opening image and the end image is the same thing, always, just on a different part of the spiral. So we put our characters through grief, through the placenta, and the rebirth, to enter into that chrysalis, to have who you are grinded down, dying. So that process is a process of surrender. And so when that surrender finally happened for Agnes, through the container that her husband built, when she finally surrendered, she ends up smiling and laughing, like she is suddenly back to that little girl on the bottom of the tree. And only then she's reborn. Not necessarily healed or completely fine, but at least now she can move on with her life. Yeah. So as soon as, that wasn't planned, when the camera rolled, we just kept rolling on Jessie. And after a while, she's done with the scene, and then I can feel something coming from her that is not hers. It's a collective surrender from all these people around her. And then that laughter just came out. And we wrote on, I remember looking at Lucas, like, we'll end the film this way, right? He's like, yeah.
Wow, fabulous. It's so beautiful to sort of be with you all, and on so many levels. The end of your movie, it's the beginning of the world.
Yeah.
Talk about the last images.
Well, that I knew I wanted to open with somebody alone, or a frozen ship with the sun is rising and everybody's stuck there, and I wanted to end up in Grace with a character that is alone but is surrendering to the sun. That came from a moment when my father was kidnapped. He was kept for 72 days. And around days 35 or 36, the most offending thing is the way the world moves. Every day somebody going to buy a burger offends you. Somebody walking with their dog offends you. And one of the things that I found more offending was the sunrise. I found it really disheartening that the sun didn't care about my pain. I was like, how horrible it felt. And at some point in the middle, I realized my pain didn't care about the sun. that it was so stupid, my pain, in the sense that I was waking up every day free. Most of the people in my family were free, and my father was not dead, that I said, the sun is great, that it comes up every day. And I felt a sense of, not relief, but a sense of something greater than me, and I could abandon myself to that. And I wanted that, you know, the movie is very much about me being a father and me being a son, and how you kind of fail at both. And it's okay to fail at both, because you're unprepared is the most fickle position in the world. And I thought I have to end on the actor's faith. I have to finish with the surrendering. And Jacob is, to me, one of the best actors, and is 1-2 takes, he's in.
Wow.
And I thought, if he can show me surrendering. And I didn't instruct him to lower his head, he just did it. And I thought, we got it.
Wow.
You know, and I think is then the epigraph of Lord Byron, which he wrote after riding through Waterloo. He said, the heart may break, and yet heartbreak, you know, it will live on. Gotcha. You know, and I thought the same. I think the two moments where we face the entirety of the mystery of the universe are birth and death. Now, we are present in one, but we don't understand it. And we are very present on the last one. And everybody in the world understands who they are, the 3 last minutes of their life. Everybody. When you're not a director, when you didn't win, when you didn't lose, when you didn't achieve, when the breath is going away. And I thought the same, very similar thought. It's very rarely we have the chance to be reborn, and it's always through grief. And I thought, can he, you know, and the creature is nice to those that are nice to him, brutal with those that are brutal to him, and at the very end, he loves those that were brutal to him. So I thought, because the mystery for me was always, why did God send Jesus to be crucified? And I thought he needed to experience death, because God can't. So I all these things, all the Catholic boy, all the boy of my father, all the flawed father, everything was a stick with that, and it was stick too.
Got it. Okay.
You know, so sometimes that happens.
Paul, the last shot, the last image you leave us with.
The last image of our film is. Well, that's so funny. What did I do?
Nothing. You're you. Go.
Willa, the daughter of her mother, heading off to continue to battle oppressive forces and people that are continuing to be shitty to each other, and hopefully doing a better job than her mom did. You know, the idea that keep going and try to learn, you know, not fathers and sons, but mothers and daughters, attack better, you know. That's what we've got.
Well, here's the thing that we got. We got so much of what you all have given us. And we are incredibly grateful for the work you've done.
What a great year for movies.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly.
What a great year for movies.
I want to thank you for all for being here. See you tonight, and this was very special.
Thank you for being such a great moderator.